Good evening, John Berman here in for Anderson. We begin with breaking news. American military involvement right now on the scene of a deadly terror attack that appears to be ongoing, along with a hostage situation in the West African nation of Burkina Faso. This is happening at a hotel popular with diplomats, Westerners, including Americans, in the capital of Quagadougou. CNN's Robin Creel monitoring these developments for us from Nairobi. Robin, what's the latest?
Well, John, we can tell you that there is a large cordon around this area, but eyewitnesses have seen several dead bodies lying outside the hotel. The assault, we understand, the operation by this Al-Qaeda group is still ongoing with a number of hostages. We don't know the exact number, however, are trapped inside. Attackers, we're told by eyewitnesses, were light-skinned. They were wearing covers over their faces, and they spoke in a language not native to Burkina Faso. That's the latest information we're hearing from the ground, John.
And we do understand that Al-Qaeda just a short time ago claimed responsibility for this attack, correct?
Yes, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, Al-Murabitun, a special sector of theirs that just recently joined up with them. A very similar hotel, they were responsible for a very similar hotel attack on the Radisson Blu in neighboring Mali, the capital Bamako, which killed 22 people. Very similar modus operandi, gunmen going in. And just to give you a bit of background, this particular movement, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, in December called for Muslims in West Africa, including Burkina Faso, to wake up for jihad. So this is a clear calling to those sorts of groups who would have been involved in this assault. And we understand it is ongoing. We do hear, as you said, U.S. special forces are outside, most likely in an advisory capacity. French troops outside as well. However, it will be those Burkina Faso gendarme special forces who will, if they do decide to assault, who will go in.
Robin, you mentioned the hotel attack in Mali at a hotel very popular with Westerners. The same type of situation here. This is a hotel where if you're a Western person traveling in that nation, you would most likely be to stay?
Indeed, that would be the hotel where diplomats would stay, UN staffers, journalists as well, NGOs and people just traveling through who can afford to stay there. So we're really seeing an incredible increase in these sorts of attacks from here in East Africa, Somalia, across the continent to, as you said, the Radisson Blu attack in Mali, which killed 22 people in a very, very similar style, also on a Friday by the same group. We cannot independently verify that it is this group. However, they have claimed responsibility according to site intelligence.
That's right, an Al-Qaeda claim of responsibility as we sit here tonight. Robin Creel, thank you so much. Again, we are getting reports of U.S. military involvement, a presence on the ground. I want to bring in Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Barbara, what are you learning?
Good evening, John. What we know at this hour is that the French military has made a request to the Pentagon, to the U.S. military, for assistance. And the U.S. military, we are told, will be sending surveillance assistance. It will be a U.S. military drone that will begin flying overhead, an unmanned drone, to survey the area and provide intelligence about what is happening to French and local authorities. Now, there are about 75 U.S. troops in this country. 15 of them are assigned to the embassy, but there are 60 that provide assistance, training, advice to the French forces who are in the lead in that country as outside forces. Those 60 forces, those U.S. troops, are in a position tonight to provide additional assistance and advice to the French if it comes to that. We are also told by a U.S. defense official that right now what they can confirm is that there is one U.S. military member outside the hotel, embedded, if you will, alongside the French forces already directly on scene, working with them to coordinate and to provide assistance. As Robin said, the U.S., and when she talked about the French, the U.S. is adamant. U.S. troops will not, at this point, certainly participate in any assault. They are in a backup role to provide that advice and assistance and fly that drone overhead to get some direct eyes on the situation.
Barbara Starr, stand by a moment right now. Again, you're looking at pictures right now. The situation is this. There is an ongoing terror assault, we believe, at a hotel popular with Westerners in the West African nation of Burkina Faso, the capital of Ouagadougou. We've heard reports of bodies on the ground outside, a U.S. military presence there. Want to bring in our CNN intelligence and security analyst, former CIA officer Bob Baer. Bob, the al-Qaeda affiliate, al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, has claimed responsibility for this attack. Tell me about this group and what they've been doing recently.
Well, John, you look at the map and you've got Mali and Niger, which those countries have, extensive networks of al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. They're very active, very well armed, and as you saw with this hotel attack, it was a synchronized attack, car bombs, plenty of people to take that hotel. This is clearly a group that knew what it was doing. And they're very active. And I think this attack is long overdue. Burkina Faso is a fragile country. It just had a coup. The security services are not very good. And that's why you're seeing the French taking the lead in this. It doesn't surprise me at all. And, the Americans, yes, they're American troops there, but they're not used to doing entries, I'm quite sure. You wouldn't have that in place in a country like Burkina Faso. But the French do. But it's a big hotel. It's hard to take back, and there could be a lot of casualties before the day's over.
Bob, are we seeing a competition now, an international competition between ISIS and al-Qaeda? Because yesterday we had the ISIS-inspired attack, or an ISIS affiliate attacking in Indonesia. Today it's al-Qaeda in West Africa. Is this important for propaganda value for these groups?
Well, I think it's really interesting.
It's very important.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, for me, the interesting thing is a couple days ago I was talking to people in jihadi circles, and this was after the attacks in Turkey that killed 10 Germans. And they said these attacks are going to continue, they're going to be wide-ranging. And they said, do not put too much value on the name of the organization, whether it's al-Qaeda or the Islamic State. There's an offensive going on against the West. And, whether it's coordinated between the Islamic State and al-Qaeda as it was in Paris and the Charlie Hebdo, I just simply don't know at this point, but it wouldn't surprise me. And they're going after the vulnerable targets like Quagadougou, Burkina Faso, where these hotels are not well protected and the local security services are not particularly good.
And Barbara, just remind us what U.S. presence is there. I think a lot of people will be surprised that there are U.S. troops in Quagadougou, and are they trained to handle this kind of assault?
Probably not equipped for it, as Bob just pointed out, at this point. What we are seeing over the last couple of years in Africa is the U.S. has been sending U.S. troops to help with training, advising, and assisting. We've seen this in several countries. They also provide intelligence, reconnaissance, they fly drones. They try and help local African forces where they can. But actually ready, equipped to jump in and conduct an assault in an urban environment on a building, probably not. The French, to a large extent, I think Bob would agree, have taken, their military has very much taken that leading edge role, especially in Western Africa.
Bob, assuming this assault is ongoing, assuming there is still a hostage situation, how do you end it?
That's very difficult because they're going to have to do what's called a dynamic entry. They're going to have to do breaching. When you set off explosives in a hotel to get through a wall like this, you obviously don't want to kill the hostages on the other side. And you have to move floor by floor. Very, very difficult. If you don't hit these people at the beginning and stop them, and they get in a hotel like that, all the guests are vulnerable. And I can't tell you what the intentions of this group is, but I fear the worst.
Potentially dire situation there. Barbara star Bob Baer, hang on for just a minute. Joined now by journalist Marina Spirinetti. She is on the scene, joins us now by telephone. Marina, give us a sense of what you're seeing right now. What's the situation?
Hi there. The situation is still quite confused right now. We have the first numbers, I'm afraid. We have numbers of casualties. Apparently, there are 20 casualties from the Cappuccino Cafe. But, of course, this number will probably rise over the next few hours. The first injured people have been moved to a nearby hospital. Meanwhile, in the Splendid hotel, the attack is still going on. The gunmen, 3 gunmen, are still inside the hotel. Gunfire could still be heard until very recently. And we know that police forces are all around the Splendid Hotel, and also, according to an eyewitness I spoke to just 10 minutes ago, on top of another hotel, which is the EB Hotel. The EB is just opposite the Splendid Hotel, in fact, but no siege has started yet. It's quite hard right now to get updates because the curfew is started at 11 p.m. and it's going on until 6 p.m. What we hope is that something is going to happen between now and 6. We hope that an attack from the army is going to happen over the next few hours.
All right, Marina Spirinetti, who is on the ground in Quagadougou, thank you for that description. Just to recap what we just heard from Marina, she says 20 casualties so far, most from a cappuccino cafe next to or attached to this hotel. The assault on the hotel is still ongoing. Marina told us she believes there are still 3 attackers inside the hotel. She heard gunfire up until very recently. The siege, any kind of assault to take back the hotel, Marina does not believe has started yet. So this still very much an active situation, an active hostage situation at this Western hotel in the capital of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou right now. You're looking at pictures right there of the scene, that fire burning. We heard reports of bomb blasts, also gunfire, reports of bodies on the ground outside. Again, an ongoing situation there. We'll bring you the latest as it comes in. Barbara Starr, Bob Baer, our thanks to you.
Hello. Gunmen have attacked a hotel in Ouagadougou in the capital of Burkina Faso in West Africa. Witnesses report at least 20 people have been killed and another 15 injured. Security forces have begun an assault to retake the building, the Splendid Hotel, which is now on fire. Shots were fired between the attackers and security forces at the scene. There are reports of an unknown number of hostages being taken. A curfew has been put in place in Ouagadougou until 6 o'clock GMT. That's for another 3 hours. Frankie McCamley has more.
Explosions thought to be 2 car bombs going off as eyewitnesses say a group of masked gunmen shot into the air before storming the Splendid Hotel in Ouagadougou, often used by UN staff and Westerners.
The guys came and started to shoot, and since 7:30 nobody has been coming. The army, the police, they all came, but they are just turning around. Our country is not for jihadists or terrorists. They are wrong.
Reports suggest a nearby cafe was also targeted and a number of people killed. It's thought around 20 people have died and 15 others seriously injured. Security forces are now launching a raid to free hostages entering the main lobby of the hotel, which is on fire. The West African country, which has recently seen a new president take office, borders with Mali, which saw a similar attack late last year. 2 militants killed 20 people at a luxury hotel in the capital Bamako before being killed by the security forces. The French embassy is calling this a terrorist attack and says an overnight curfew is now in place. It's not clear who is behind the shootings yet, but unconfirmed reports suggest Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb is claiming responsibility. Frankie McCamley, BBC News.
Well, let's just bring you some of the latest pictures that have just come into us. These are some of the vehicles, it looks like, on fire outside the hotel. We know that the assault by security forces to recapture the hotel has begun. That assault began about an hour and a half ago. Witnesses have said that the hotel lobby is on fire. You can see the streets there deserted. Very few people actually there, 1 or 2 around, but there is a curfew in place in Ouagadougou. Just to remind you, this is after gunmen attacked the Splendid Hotel, popular with Westerners in the capital, Ouagadougou, late on Friday. Those are the latest pictures that have come into us there. We will bring you more as we get them. But a little earlier, I spoke to Stella Nana, a freelance journalist from Ouagadougou. She described what she witnessed at the scene of the attack.
We can say that around 8 in the night, we heard very, very big shots and thuds and explosions. So people knew that something was happening in the town. And then we just saw fire before the hotel. because someone put fire in a car. It was attackers. And then they put fire in other cars around. They were shooting in the hotel and then shooting in the restaurant in front of the hotel called Cappuccino. There they killed many people. They were just killing many white people.
And you obviously can't go out now because of the curfew. Presumably the streets are deserted there. It must be a very tense situation.
No, because of the curfew, everybody has entered his home, even for the journalists, because army and security forces asked us to rent our houses because they are going to attack the hotel in order to keep them.
And Stella,
so we can hear from time to time some shots, gunshots, and small explosions.
And are you in contact with anyone who is inside the hotel at the moment?
Not inside the hotel, but some people near inside the building in front of the hotel.
And what are they telling you?
They are hiding because they're afraid of being killed, because at the dawn they came inside and killed some people, so they are hiding.
That was Stella Nana speaking to me a little earlier. Cynthia Oayon is an expert on Burkina Faso with the International Crisis Group. She says it's not particularly surprising that the city was targeted by the attackers.
Burkina is in a very troubled region in the Sahel. It has a long and porous border with Mali and Niger, countries in which there has been terrorist attacks before, and there is a known presence of terrorist groups. That's also the political context is important. The country comes out of a fragile one-year political transition after a regime that was here for 27 years. And the new president just took office 2 weeks ago. The new government was just nominated this week. And so there's a context of political fragility that is obviously very ideal for these terrorist groups to strike. I mean, up until a few hours ago, you could say that there was a large sense of optimism in Quagadougou, even though people's expectations are high and they're waiting for the new government to deliver. But at least there was, as you said, relief that the transition is finally over, that the election was peaceful as well, and that the government and the authorities are getting, are settling down. And so that's obviously going to be a huge blow to this sense of general optimism, and that's going to be one more very difficult issue that the government will have to tackle.
That was Cynthia Oayon speaking to us earlier. Tommy Oladipo is our Africa security correspondent. He's been giving us more details about the Hotel Splendid.
This is the kind of hotel where you find, as you say, a lot of expatriates there. This attack is reminiscent of the attack on the Radisson Blu Hotel in Bamako in neighboring Mali, which happened a few weeks back. So this is a kind of prime target for Islamic extremists. Jihadist monitoring group called SITE, S-I-T-E, has said that Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb is saying it's behind this attack. We cannot independently verify that claim, that report right now, but that sort of goes with what we know about such attacks on establishments where Westerners frequent. Burkina Faso is a poor country. It's one that's had problems with stability in recent times. So yes, definitely the government having its hands full, barely having taken office. But I believe that this government will receive a lot of support, for example, from France, which is an ally, as well as the region, the West African regional bloc, ECOWAS, will be keen to support in this kind of situation, as we've seen them expressed a lot of interest in the recent happenings in the country. So definitely a lot for this country to worry about at the moment. But at the same time, if it is indeed an Islamist extremist attack, it's likely that this will then have to, bring Burkina Faso into the spotlight, just like its neighbor Mali, which has been a haven for these kinds of attacks. So that will be a lot for the regional forces and the regional countries and bodies to consider in terms of the spread of Islamist extremism in the region.
Well, let's just bring you some latest pictures that have come into us. These images of the streets in the capital, Ouagadougou. The hotel you can see the vehicles on fire outside the hotel. The gunmen attacked Hotel Splendid, a building popular with Westerners. The security forces in the early hours of Saturday morning then launched an assault. I believe you can see the security forces presumably there to try to recapture the hotel from the militants. There are reports that at least 20 people have been killed, another 15 injured. There is a curfew in place. These are the latest images that we're getting from Burkina Faso in West Africa. Our understanding that the assault by the security forces is underway. We will, of course, keep across those developments and bring you any updates as we get them. So stay with us here on BBC News.